You ever have one of those days where you're standing in your own backyard, sun shining, birds chirping, the air so clean you just know it's going to be a good one? That was me right at the start of this story, feeling proud as a peacock in my best suit. Clipboard in hand, ready to finally rent out the guest house I'd spent the better part of a year turning into a little slice of California heaven, hardwood floors, marble bathroom, the works. I was beaming. Standing next to me was this great guy, Raj, Indian fellow, red polo, big smile, eyes lighting up at every little detail, already talking about setting up his work-from-home desk by the window. Perfect fit, I thought. For once, maybe things were going my way. That's when the world record for fastest way to kill a vibe got absolutely shattered. Right over the hedge comes this voice, high and shrill enough to make your blood run cold. What do you think you're doing? We don't need your kind bringing your curry smells and your strange holidays into our neighborhood. Yep, there she was. The queen of the cul-de-sac, let's just call her Karen. Bleach blonde hair. Face twisted up like she'd sucked a lemon, and eyes locked right on Raj, not even acknowledging me. I swear time just stopped. I could hear my own pulse pounding. Raj looked like he'd been slapped. My clipboard suddenly felt like a cardboard shield in a tornado. Now, my first instinct was to give Karen a piece of my mind. She'd remember for the rest of her life, but I looked at Raj, just standing there, his shoulders slumped, and I realized yelling back wouldn't fix what she'd already done. So I sucked in the deepest breath of my life, steadied my voice, and told her, "You're being incredibly inappropriate, and you need to go back inside." Did she? Of course not. With a Karen that's just pouring gasoline on the fire. She lost it screaming about how my guest house should have been hers, how I was turning the neighborhood into a slum, all the greatest hits of bigotry and entitlement rolled into one. Raj tried to reason with her, said he was a software engineer just looking at the house, but she sneered, "I don't care if you're the King of England, you're not welcome here." It was surreal. And in that moment, something just broke inside me, not fear, not even anger anymore, just this cold, determined clarity. I stood between Raj and that hedge, told her to get lost, and for a second I thought she might actually climb over. But instead she hissed, "You have no idea what you've just done. That guest house should have been mine." Then she stomped off and slammed her door hard enough to rattle my windows. Raj apologized to me. Can you believe that? Apologizing for what she did to him. I told him, "Don't you dare. That's not what this place is about." But the damage was done. He said he couldn't live next to that kind of hate, and who could blame him? He left, and just like that, my perfect afternoon, my perfect tenant, gone. Her words stuck with me. That guest house should have been mine. What did that even mean? As I sat at my kitchen table, fuming and replaying every encounter I'd ever had with Karen, I started to see the pattern. She'd always been a nuisance, passive-aggressive notes about packages, complaints about my lawn guy at 10 a.m., weird little suggestions for my renovations, as if she had some kind of stake in my property. But now I remembered months back, she'd hinted that her daughter and son-in-law needed a place, and wouldn't the guest house be perfect for them? I told her politely but firmly it was a rental. She'd gone cold and apparently decided to declare war. A week later, sure enough, there's a letter on my door from the HOA complaints about my unapproved construction threats about single-family zoning and an invitation to the next board meeting. All written in that classic corporate language. It has come to our attention. Yeah, right. We all know whose attention. Karen had weaponized the system against me, hiding her nastiness behind official letters and red tape. So I did what any stubborn, thoroughly ticked-off American would do. I dug out every permit, every invoice, and a highlighter ready to fight. Meanwhile, the neighborhood started to get chilly. No more friendly waves folks suddenly on new watering schedules. Sarah, the retired teacher on my other side, pulled me aside and said, Karen was telling everyone I was turning the place into an illegal Airbnb flophouse. She was painting me as the villain, all while leaving out her own racism. She was isolating me, and it worked, at least for a while. But then I realized Karen was trying to bully me out to make my life so miserable I'd just hand her the guest house for her family or give up and leave. That's when I decided enough was enough. I called a lawyer a real shark named Mr. Chen. He looked over everything and just shook his head. "You're in the clear," he said. "HOA can't override state law on rentals." "But Karen, what she's doing is harassment. You need cameras, you need documentation. From now on, don't talk to her. If she bothers you, say my lawyer will be in contact." So that's what I did. Ordered cameras, relisted the guest house, and braced for round 2. The next tenants to view were Mike and Chloe, a couple of nurses. Sweet, down-to-earth folks. I warned them about Karen, figuring honesty was better than another surprise meltdown. Instead of running, they looked at each other, then back at Karen, who was standing by the hedge with a notepad, glaring, and said, "We've dealt with bullies before. We want it. Only condition is you invite us for a barbecue." I laughed for the first time in weeks. We signed the papers. Karen lost her mind when she saw the cameras go up, called the police, claimed I was spying. The officer checked the footage, said everything was legal, and left Karen standing on her porch, fuming and humiliated. She retaliated by staring at the cameras for hours, standing motionless, pretending to birdwatch with binoculars pointed at my house, coughing theatrically. It was so childish it almost made me laugh. But every weird move she made I saved to the cloud. At the HOA meeting, she tried her usual act. "He's bringing in strangers, destroying our values, making me feel unsafe." I calmly laid out every permit, every law, every video clip. Then I played footage of her intimidating tenants screaming at me over the hedge and threatening to get that little house. The board and neighbors watched in silence, her friends inching away as she melted down, calling me a liar and the board useless. The president, Brenda, dismissed the complaint, issued a formal warning to Karen, and that was that. But I knew it wasn't over. Karen's next move was straight out of a soap opera. She sabotaged the guest house's internet, slicing the cable just enough to mess with the signal. I caught her on camera hood up at 2 a.m. and filed a police report on my lawyer's advice. That's when Karen went nuclear. She called in a wellness check, telling the cops there was a violent disturbance at my house. I opened the door, confused as hell, but the officers quickly realized it was a false report, a cheap attempt to build a record of trouble. My lawyer filed for a restraining order. The judge granted it, and a deputy served Karen the papers while she stood on her porch, shaking with rage. For a couple days, it was peaceful. Then Karen started the psychological warfare, blaring talk radio in her yard from morning to night, hanging wind chimes big enough to wake the dead, installing a floodlight that could have guided planes into LAX, all aimed right at my house. Each thing on its own wasn't illegal, but together it was a campaign of misery. Thing is, she overplayed her hand. The whole neighborhood got fed up. Her noise, her lights, her pettiness were splashing onto everyone. At the next HOA meeting, half the street complained about Karen. The board finally sent her a warning letter. After that, the noise stopped, the wind chimes came down, the floodlight got re-aimed. For the first time, she was alone. The queen had been dethroned. Months went by. Karen barely left her house. The street was peaceful. Mike and Chloe planted a garden. I finally started sleeping easy. Then one day I saw the for sale sign in Karen's yard. She was moving. She'd poisoned her own life so thoroughly that she had no choice but to run. When the moving trucks came, she disappeared, never so much as said goodbye. The new family was everything she wasn't: kind, warm, their kids' laughter filling the air. Looking back, the real victory wasn't the restraining order or the board meeting or even Karen moving out. It was learning how to stand up not just for myself, but for my right to live in peace, for Raj, for Mike and Chloe, for the whole street. I learned the power of documentation, the value of community, and the importance of never backing down to a bully, no matter how loud or persistent they are, the hedge that once separated us. Just a line of green again. My house, my peace, finally mine. And as I'm sitting here on a sunny Saturday sipping coffee, Mike and Chloe waving from their patio, I can honestly say the struggle was worth it. So, let me ask, have you ever faced down a neighbor like Karen? What did you do? Drop your stories below. I'd love to hear how you handled it. And hey, if you believe standing up to bullies matters, share this story. Maybe we'll make a few more peaceful streets together.